Veteran Will Sharp is attempting to speak with medical insurance representatives because he needs money for his wife Amy's experimental cancer surgery. He receives zero assistance, which leaves him with few other options. They must also take care of a newborn. Will leaves for what he thinks is a job interview when in reality he is meeting his adopted brother Danny, a notorious bank robber. Danny and his group have several stolen cars at their residence, where Will meets Danny. Will acknowledges his need, and Danny is aware of his need. Danny agrees to accompany him on a job they are performing that very day. In another area of the city, Lindsay, a young girl, has been impaled by a fence post when paramedic Cam Thompson and her new partner Scott arrive at the scene of a car crash. While they take down the barrier to release Lindsay, Cam calms her down. Scott tells Cam that Lindsay will survive during their lunch date later on, but Cam claims she doesn't care because she just goes about her work like any other employee without developing any attachments. Although Cam is the top medic in the city, Scott notes that he has heard of her reputation and that no one wants to work with her. Will joins Danny and his thugs get to the bank. Zach and Mark, two officers, head to the bank in the meantime because Zach has feelings for one of the tellers and wants to ask her out. Mark urges him to comply with the request. Danny and the others are already holding the other employees at gunpoint as he enters the building. By declaring that he intends to register an account, he is unable to stop Zach from entering. Danny, who is posing as the bank manager, responds with a false identity when Zach asks him who the teller is. Zach approaches the window to speak with her, and before he realizes there is a problem, he sees her real name. Zach is forced to act calm by Danny, who instantly draws his gun and orders his men to do the same so they can get what they want and go away. Mark assists one of the crew members outside the bank as his truck stalls, unaware of his actual motives. The criminal tries to run over Mark after learning that the crew's cover has been revealed, but Mark gets out of the path in time. A firefight breaks out between the other crew members and police as Will and Danny begin to leave with Zach held hostage. All of Danny's men are slain. Zach makes an effort to fight off Danny, but Will shoots Zach. Zach is left behind as they begin to flee, but Mark is able to locate him. Cam and Scott are called in to assist, but after bringing Zach in, Danny forces Scott to leave and as Will take his uniform so they can hijack the ambulance. Danny jumps in the back and threatens Cam with a gun until Cam complies. They begin to leave and are stopped by a squad of police vehicles, but Cam is able to free them when they realize Zach is receiving treatment there. When additional officers discover Scott unconscious, they realize Will and Danny had taken over the ambulance. This prompts other police enforcement to arrive and work out a plan of action to stop them, including CIS Captain Monroe. They also bring in Ensign Clark, an FBI agent in command of a division that specializes in bank robberies. He tells Monroe that he is aware that Danny is responsible for the crime, that they have a personal past, and that Danny was raised by a criminal father. Monroe cautions the other officers and agents against halting the ambulance because Zach is inside of it. When Will notices that police helicopters are now searching for them, he stops the ambulance in an alley. Cam tries to get away, but Danny stops her and drags her back inside. Danny makes contact with another crook, Castro, to be ready for their arrival in Boyle Heights. Danny also had a conversation with Poppy, a criminal leader who worked for his father. The local gangsters start preparing an automobile that is mounted with a machine gun. Zach is still being kept stable by Cam, who also makes Danny assist with the defibrillator. Cam tries to stop the bleeding when Zach begins to bleed out, but she is unable to do so because she is not a doctor. As she now has Will's assistance, she calls her ex-boyfriend Colin, a surgeon, and she then calls two other surgeons and puts them on video chat to help her through it. Zach's stomach must be dug through while they attempt to remove the bullets. Zach awakens at one point and begins to panic, which prompts Will to punch him and knock him asleep. Zach's spleen ruptures as Cam tries to take the bullet out of it. Cam has to use a hair clip to hold it in place. From there, they are able to stop the bleeding. When Monroe contacts Colin, he informs Monroe that the video stream stopped right after Zach's spleen burst. Monroe instructs the other officers to take up sniper position and wait for the ambulance to pass, assuming that Zach is dead as a result. Cam is able to speak with Clark, informing him that Zach is still alive. Will and Danny are able to outpace the ambulance and cause other police cars to crash with their maneuvers, even though the ambulance takes some shots from the snipers after Cam alerts them to their presence. Will tries to calm Danny down by playing music, but it doesn't work as Danny claims they don't need Cam any longer and he tries to shoot her. Cam finds out that Will is a veteran, married, and a father of a young child when Amy contacts and video chats with Will, believing that he was hired for the position he purported to be interviewing for. The men drive the ambulance to the Los Angeles River, where Will continues driving as Danny begins firing at a helicopter. When they get at their destination, Castro has already started spray painting the ambulance, and Monroe and his men are getting ready to engage them. In retaliation, the criminals drive a machine gun car into the police gathering, opening fire on everyone there and killing Monroe. Another ambulance loaded with explosives is sent down there by Roberto, Poppy's son, blowing up further police officers. After a chase and struggle with Roberto, Mark pushes him to shoot himself in the head, which Poppy sees on the news. Will and Danny drive the ambulance to Poppy's house to deliver his share of the money. Poppy is furious at his son's passing and demands more retaliation from the men. He instructs the boys to leave Zach and Cam behind. Will and Danny, however, team up to kill Poppy and his men. Zach hands Cam his gun in the meantime, just in case. When Will races for the ambulance, Cam unintentionally shoots him out of terror. Danny believes it was another gangster has shot Will. Danny drives the ambulance toward a hospital while it is surrounded by law enforcement officers. Danny is warned that he will be shot until he surrenders, so Clark makes contact with him. When Danny learns that Cam shot Will, he makes an effort to extract her at gunpoint, planning to kill himself and take her with him. A gunshot is heard as soon as he and Cam step outside. Will had just shot Danny in the back. When Will is taken out of the ambulance, Danny apologizes to him before passing away next to him. When Amy arrives on the scene and sees Will, she breaks out in hysterics. Cam is restrained but yet does what she can to keep Will alive. She talks to Amy and covertly places part of the theft cash Will had earlier requested Cam to leave for her in the baby's car seat. Will is arrested and kept under observation at the medical facility. Will manages to wave at Amy and their infant as they watch him from the window. Zach's statement is taken by another officer, who then queries the shooter. He says that Will saved his life and gestures toward Will. As Lindsay awakens, Cam goes to her room and clutches her hand. Later, as night fell, she departed the hospital,